records are so expensive. When I was kid, like 12 years old, it cost 2,000 yen. If you buy 10 records, your monthly income disappeared. So they go to kissaten and pay maybe 100 yen coffee, stay all afternoon in the kissaten listening to your favorite music. That's what I did when I was 14, 15 years old.
So I'd love to actually ask Kuni a question, because this culture we saw, 100 years now, and a lot of it in post-war Japan, the listening bar, the ongaku kissa as kind of a third space, a place where people were able to communally connect and listen to music outside of their homes, and in a Tokyo where maybe people didn't have the resources to have these systems, and people were forging a new life and a new identity. You were coming up in Japan and you were frequenting some places. I'd love for you to take us back to Duet and tell us about Duet. Tell us about your experiences in the ongaku kissas.
Ongaku kissa is my starting place. In the movie they said the records are so expensive. When I was kid, like 12 years old, it cost $2,000. And then the salary of people is something like 20, 30,000 yen. So 10 times, if you buy 10 records, your monthly income disappeared. So they go to kissaten, like Lion, like Duet, and they pay maybe 100 yen coffee, stay all afternoon in the kissaten listening your favorite music. That's what I did when I was 14, 15 years old. And my favorite place is called Duet. And right next door was Lion, the classical music place. Recently, I went back to Lion, and all the memories came back. So this is about my life.
And I feel like these spaces, again, these sort of third spaces where you can go alone, but you're there maybe with others, and sometimes you are alone. It might be you and the person running the place, but for you and for the sort of music community of creative musicians in Tokyo, what role did these kissaten play in development of music culture and the new music that came after?
Okay. You may know the name such as Sadao Watanabe, the saxophone player. I know the kissaten in Yurakucho near Ginza. There's a place called Mama. And that, if you go to Mama, you see all the musicians, including Sadao Watanabe and then his seniors, Toshiko Akiyoshi, all those people. And then one pianist who has a tremendous ability to transcribe the music from the record, made a chart and gave it to Sadao Watanabe. So the kissaten was like a music school. Yeah. And then Sadao ended up going to Berkeley in Boston, and then he came back and he started teaching method of jazz, and then jazz in Japan becoming very, very sophisticated. Yeah. So it was a school
yeah.
too.
And I love the idea of a musician sitting there and hearing something that moves them so much that they want to then transmit it. But also I think about in these films that we saw, you know, sometimes if you see a lot of the coverage of this culture, you're seeing speaker shots, speaker shots, speaker shots, and it's important, but really this centering of the humans, the people who are so focused to create a space that is an expression and amplification of them, but also an invitation to others. And I think that the idea of that sort of ripple effect, and Zach and I were talking about this ripple effect that, you know, you might be a chef who goes into the space, but music can move you. I mean, we all know we're here because of music primarily, I think. And I think that we probably, you know, there's so many different jobs here. Everybody's doing something different. But that sort of connective power of music, and when you have a space that is centering that experience, each individual then goes out in the world and transmits it. And Zach, I think you might have something in your pocket that you could share.
It's true.
The big reveal.
Put you on the spot, Kuni. I heard you speak. Frosty moderated, and you said something in this lecture, it was maybe 7 or 8 years ago, that was so moving to me. So this is something I heard in one of these spaces, and it's written down, and it's always in front of my desk where I work on music. And you said, I believe in the theory that everything starts from the avant-garde. If it's for everybody, that's for nobody. If it's for you or you, that's the real thing. And that's been a real guiding light on a lot of work I've done to kind of...
Well, it came from my English teacher, who is an American. I was 13 or 14 years old, and he's a linguist. He went to Michigan University, which is known for, you know, linguistic, and he spoke Japanese, and then once a week I visited him to learn English, and he let me read the books by Hemingway, you know, those kind of things, and we became friends, and then we talk casually, and he's a kind of artist, and he said, Kuni, remember, everything starts from avant-garde. I don't forget it for my life.
I think it was really important when I heard you say this years ago, and it's even more important now in how algorithmic everything's become. And it's really kind of proving that making something for everybody, it doesn't really advance us. So thank you for that. Thank your teacher for that.
Thank you.
And I think the great point that Zach made, I think that things can kind of get flattened out and globalized, and in the algorithm, if it's, you know, the foam latte or the, you know, type of decor of a coffee house. The same can be true with these sort of listening spaces. I feel like most cities I go to today, there's some listening space. And it's wonderful that there's this idea of spaces to listen. But there's also, even more important, to have authenticity in the people who are driving it, the people who are passionate. Because the same records that drive us to really hear and dedicate and listen to deeply, those are the musicians who come from a place of passion. They're going to do it no matter what. And I'm curious for you, Zach, you have devoted so much of your life uncompromisingly to share your vision of sound with others. Was there a turn on for you kind of sonically that drove you to want to create? Because we saw, like in the Egakan, this desire to create this perfect system. You've done that, but also in many other ways. What was a turn on for you in this form?
The first proper, like, I think maybe like you, Chris, as well, like when you grow up DJing, sound is almost a bit of an afterthought because you just want to find the records. Is that accurate for you? Like,
well, for me, it was like I wanted to scratch, like in the mid '80s, and then I spent actually I put on a YMO record and scratched, but yeah, I mean, definitely. And then the sound was like later. Till I got my subwoofer in my car in the 90s.
And then I guess I just maybe ran out of a lot of the records I was looking for and needed something else to go nuts over. And I heard the system of an amazing person in music, Joel Bernstein. Do you know Joel, Mark?
I don't.
Very, very important photographer, like an archivist. He did everything for Joni Mitchell, Neil Young. He was Prince's guitar tech after that. But that's the first system I heard, and it was about 16 years ago. And it just put something in my head, and I really relate to what the gentleman in the second film was going into, is you just chase it. You're trying to get this thing that's in your head. It's very subjective. And I think the loft I had, not far from here, you've been there, or you were there, it wasn't uncommon to walk in there and see like 15 pairs of speakers, 10 amps, like every turntable. So I was just chasing this thing that was in my head, and lucky enough to find a lot of mentors. That's where a lot of this information hides, is people like Joe Roberts, who had the Sound Practices magazine. So yeah, I've just been chasing it forever. It's in a pretty good place right now. It's pretty pretty figured out for what my ears want, but it was a terrible, terrible journey.
Yeah. But I feel like, the sort of incredible revelation of hearing even familiar sounds on an incredible system is very mind-blowing. But it's, it has to have the human behind it. And you two have both mentioned these sort of mentors, and music is really a continuum, and that nothing's happening in a vacuum, and that everything is connected to what came before. And I think that these spaces offer an invitation for us to come in, and you can't dictate how people will hear it and feel. It's subjective, right? But to set an emotion and create a space. And I think of Peanut Butter Wolf and Goldline. And when you go in Goldline, it's Wolf's personal collection. You have thousands and thousands of records in this space. And I feel like I'm crawling around in his brain when I DJ there. There's some wild, dark recesses, but there's such surprise. And when you're in a space like that, I think the sound is sort of so present and creates sort of this way for people to connect with music in a deeper level than they would. And it's usually, if it's tuned well and the system's good, you walk out and you don't feel tired. You don't feel fatigued from the sound. You actually feel like it, massaged or something. It's like it's this pleasurable kind of experience. For you, Chris, what was the sort of spark of wanting to help bring that culture here to Los Angeles and make it really accessible? And it's different, I think, because Goldline 2, it's not necessarily the come in and whisper. It's the social aspect is important. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right, yeah. I think it's kind of an American bastardization of what was happening in Japan. And, I started as a DJ, I started my label when I kind of at the same time, but that was more or less in the 90s. And I started going to Japan in the 90s, but, I never knew about the kissas and the hi-fi bars or any of that until after I had the idea. I thought like I was onto something like totally new and different. And this reminded me how like I'm not onto anything new. But yeah, I think so. It was like 2011. I had this idea to have 11 different DJs spin with my records, and so I rented a U-Haul and I brought a bunch of records. It was like this numerology thing. I had 1,100 records all in one room. And then I found out in Japan that people are actually doing that and had been doing that for years and years, But I think my focus was more the records, almost what you were saying. Like at first we think about the music and then we think about like the sonics of it later, maybe. So yeah, I mean that was kind of my journey with doing that, and it I never owned a bar before, never had an interest in doing that, but I met a friend who actually was a Dublab DJ. I don't know if he's here, Tyler. I invited him, but he's one of my partners in the bar. And yeah, he was at my house, and we were just talking, and he's a DJ, I'm a DJ, and then I found out he owns bars, and I'm like, hey, I got this idea, I've been wanting to do this. And yeah, we all like kind of figured it out on our own. But yeah, I think what we do is like, it's an ode to what's been going on in Japan for so many years, but it is kind of wrong, I guess.
Well,
But in the best way.
I want to interject that I actually think that that's right, because it's my belief that what makes these things so special is their expressions of the people that put them together, and that's what's so amazing about going to Japan is they're all completely different. And like I remember first time I went to Gold Line and saw all the glossies near the.
Oh right.
I was like, this is Chris's bar, and that's important. It's your expression, and it's important.
And I like the modest, he's on to nothing new, but I recently just again saw this video of him introducing Dilla and Madlib. So like he has helped birth a lot of new music culture
Also,
that has changed the world.
30 years of Stone's Throw. Give it up, everybody.
There's people up there even.
And I think of also, beyond a space for just listening, it is, again, this communal space. I think of the number of musicians who work at at Gold Line, and this sort of community. And it brings me back to actually Kuni as well, because Kuni, you were saying that, when Hosono was coming in, you were starting Alpha, and you were creating this space, and he was saying, well, okay, what do I do in this space? And you gave him the freedom, but most importantly, the space. And when you create a space and you make that opportunity, these creative minds fill it with something. Can you tell us a bit about the maybe the interconnectivity and maybe the freedom that you give to these people, the effect of that, and how it's connected to listening culture in Japan?
Hosono, the relation with Hosono is very special for me. It doesn't happen to anybody else. I gave his own studio. I made a studio and I gave it to him, and I let him do whatever he wanted to do. But this is because he's Hosono, and I respect his art. It doesn't happen to everybody. Only maybe 3 or 4 artists I treated them like I treated Hosono. So very limited. But if I believe somebody's ability and talent, I really believe in it, and I let them do whatever they wanted to do. Can I mention a little bit about my memory about the movie?
Yeah.
The first one, this is a classical place called Lion. And the lady said, this is, they moved right after the war. Shibuya, Shibuya, it's the most crowded place in Tokyo. Burnt out, it's all flat. And what happened, people are, starving. And then they couldn't, those days, the government delivered the food, one family, certain rice, certain vegetable. But they couldn't survive. So there was a huge black market in Shibuya. And the location of Lion is in the middle of the old-time market. And then I suddenly, the memory of my favorite movie came out to my mind. That was the Third Man, 1949. Orson Welles is in the movie. He was the merchant of black market selling penicillin illegally, and as a result, many young kids died kind of, very dark black market win movie. And the same year, 1949, Akira Kurosawa made a movie called Drunken Angel. This is the story of a gang, Mifune, Toshiro Mifune is plays the role of the gangster. He is the bodyguard for the bad people's bad people in the black market in somewhere like Shibuya, and he is going to be killed by another bad guy. He has a tuberculosis. And this is the story of the friendship between that bad guy, Mifune, and then the doctor. But the doctor is alcoholic. This is the story of the friendship of alcoholic doctor and then a tuberculosis guy. Amazingly, in this movie, I saw the part of the Drunken Angel. Did you remember the very dirty pond? Bottle is floating, and one guy with the straw hat walking, that the alcoholic
And
doctor.
this scene of the rapid Tokyos and this sort of moment of reinvention, and I think that like those moments of reinvention are so important. In Los Angeles, we're just a year past devastating fires. We're in a place where we're these ICE raids that are just assaulting and victimizing. There's so many things that are wrong, but I think we have the lovely ability here, especially in Los Angeles, is reinventions in our DNA and kind of pushing. You see the sort of sad news of a lot of these places closing, but I think that the sort of documentation of the spaces and the conversations and the interest in it is keeping it alive. But I'm also wondering, what do you think the most important elements to push it forward in the best way? And I think maybe for you, Zach and Chris, who have these spaces or systems that are actively doing this work to share it, what is the most kind of crucial element that you hold close to ensure that it continues to evolve in the right way?
Chris?
Oh, that's for us. Actually, as I was watching the movie, I was just thinking about how some of these. It's been 100 years, and as for my vinyl bar, it's been 8 years, or almost 7.5. And so I was curious how long they bars usually last in general, and I Googled it, and I don't know if it was AI or whatever told me that it was like 1 to 2 years, or 2 to 3 years normally, and then a lot of them end in the first year. But I didn't go into it thinking of any of that. And 8 years to me seems like it's kind of the beginning of the journey still. But we just do it one day at a time, and until we stop enjoying it. And it's been a great run. I love doing it. I don't really go anywhere else but that bar. Unless one of my friends is doing something somewhere, but
But it's a place where there's conversation and there's this openness. I think whenever I DJ there, the sort of fascinating conversations, and often with strangers, who come up and they're engaged over the music, and it's possible in a place that has great sound because you can actually have a conversation and the music is present and you're hearing it. And Zach, I know you're traveling and you're playing in these different environments where you're engaging with sound. You play on many different systems. As a DJ and somebody who's really kind of selecting and helping pushing forward music, I think, new music is probably equally. I know you're an aficionado of such deep kind of archival music, but also connected to new music. Where does the sort of connection between sort of that forward edge of culture and the sound come in?
Well, I think, Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe the key to longevity with some of these places is to kind of be helmed with folks like Chris, who your curiosity is unending. So if you get excited about something, it's going to show up there. So maybe it'll never be stagnant with that if you're always kind of moving it along. But that's a good question. I think something struck me. I've been kind of like helping these guys out for about 7 years with this project, and some of the stuff you saw there is 7 years old. So it's so interesting in the second one where the woman's like, "This doesn't exist outside of Japan." Like that was 7 years ago, and it's kind of true. And now the influence of these places has really gone around the world. So I think something to keep this culture alive is spreading like the message of this film. Yeah. And I can't say enough about like Nick and Tu and Tim and Dean, like everybody that put this together. It is such a labor of love. I know there's 6 of them, and they're all mind-blowing. You guys just saw 3, and they're ready for distribution. So if this is being recorded, and anybody's watching this, and you have ties to getting this to a bigger audience, Nick is very reachable.
Yeah, and it's not maybe, the creation of these is so tied to the authenticity of the music. There's a lot of needle drops and a lot of music that is crucial, and again, the kind of uncompromising nature of showing these spaces in their true form. It's not about cheating it and putting some other score in there, but it's really every crackle of the record, every sort of moment is real. You were mentioning the recording of the film itself, and I'd love to hear how that was recorded, because it's very special. They
actually, like everything you hear in here is recorded in the spaces themselves. So, just some great mics in the sweet spot of all these rooms is exactly what you're hearing. And it was amazing to me to hear it in this theater too, because I've been watching it on computers for a while. So, and Nick also, like, I am a music supervisor, and nobody wants to ever talk about licensing. It's the the ugly part of the job, and Nick licensed all this. Like this guy is in it.
He's so devoted, just like the proprietors of these spaces. He's so devoted to his vision and making it happen. And I think about the Birdsong episode, and I think about the happy end and this sort of articulation of a record that broke the mold for Japanese music. Again, the idea, maybe even within Japan, that it wasn't cool to make a rock record sung in Japanese. And Happy End said, no, we're playing with the language, and we're elastic with the language, and we're bringing our own spirit to it, and that innovated and pushed it forward because they weren't afraid to do their own thing within that, and it changed the world. And I think, Kuni, so much of the music that you've helped create, but also the way that you did it. I think that Yellow Magic Orchestra was one of the most important exports, musical exports. If you haven't seen these like Greek theater performances, actually back in the back, there's the Akiko Yano poster, and like with Akiko Yano, everybody, these performances here in Los Angeles where, they're shredding, and the sort of enthusiasm was probably unheard of before that, but your vision to bring Japanese culture, and much like the idea of these kissas and listening bar culture, which is now worldwide, you were really the person who was first bringing this musical culture to the world. And I'm curious for you, like this feedback loop of being a musician yourself, but even more importantly, being a listener at your core. How does it feel to have seen this kind of come full circle, the energy that you've put into cultivating?
Yes, and I was, when Yellow Magic Orchestra's first album was released in 1979, many years ago already, and I miss Ryuichi Sakamoto and Takahashi. They are gone, and luckily Hosono is very active now, performing in New York, Los Angeles, London, Tokyo, Taiwan, and everywhere. And myself, now I'm trying to making my own music. So I'm not producing. I'm making my own album, and I don't listen to new music. I listen to jazz and classical music so much, and I don't need more music.
Well, you
what
are
genre is your album?
Many people ask me, what is the most hip music now? I said, I don't know.
I wish we could flash back to young Chris scratching the Yellow Magic Orchestra, but see it through Kuni's eyes and hear it through his ears, like the product of creating something that then is influencing somebody to do their own thing. The sound of that stuff that then influences somebody who's starting a label and giving a space. Much like Kuni gave space for Hosono, you've given so much space for artists, and that connection between Stone's Throw and the Gold Line is this like beautiful kind of organism in a way, all in one family.
Well, the computer game, I bought the 45 when I was 10 years old in 1980, and I heard it on a radio station in the Bay Area called KSOL. It was all soul and funk music and disco, and I had never really heard electronic music other than like pop, the song called Pop Music by M, which is Robin Scott, I think, and then, yeah, there was very, very few, so that was like that was a life-altering moment for me, and I didn't know
Thank you very much.
I didn't know it was Japanese. I just knew it was like soul, disco, funk music. It was very different, but also very authentic.
Please.
Hosono has a tremendous knowledge about American music in the 20th century. It is amazing. He's like, I don't know how I can explain about this. He knows all American music so well.
Well, they were on Soul Train too. They did the song Tighten Up, which was a cover of like Archie Bell and the Drells. I didn't know that then, but I saw that like years later.
And it's conversation, and I think Los Angeles and Tokyo and this sort of bouncing of culture across the Pacific, everybody's, kind of bouncing off each other, and it's a continuum, and people here who've watched these films, the hope is that you've been touched and inspired by this sort of deep devotion to music, and whatever way you kind of bring it forward in your own life, I think is going to be productive and exciting, and it's such a treat to be gathered here together in one space.
I have to put our moderator on the spot. Frosty was the first friend of mine that went to Japan, and the first bag of records from a maniac who went to Japan I ever saw was yours, and that led both of us in the Light in the Attic crew to doing projects like Pacific Breeze. Yusuke is here somewhere. He was there he is. Very important part of that to figure out the licensing to get a lot of this music from Japan over to America. So I can't sit here and have you moderate without getting a little shine on you, because that you're the first person to play me a lot of this stuff. So thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I feel that it's sort of this, we were talking about beginner's mind. There's so much music in the world. It's so vast that you can't even comprehend it. And I think what keeps myself unjaded and excited is just knowing there's more to hear. And spaces that are curated and reflections of an individual's taste are really special to that, because then you're turned on, you're hearing, and it's just an endless journey. To walk into a bar with 11,000 records. My old rule at the Gold Line, when I first, maybe 4 times I DJ'd, was to never play anything I knew. I kind of gave that up after a while. It was a little anxiety-inducing, but I discovered a lot of music. But it's such an incredible treat. And I want to give a huge shout out to these wonderful guests: Peanut Butter Wolf, Kuni Murai, Zach Cowie. Let's hear it for these.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Champions of music, and what an honor to be here in the Aratani Theater, which holds so much history and it has so much going forward. Ronnie, who is doing such great work spearheading a lot of the cultural programming here. So progressive and wonderful. Japanese American Cultural and Community Center. Don't miss the garden, the galleries, the stores, all this stuff. Always blowing my mind. Huge shout to Film Independent, to Kate and the entire crew, Film Independent, for coming together to make this possible and to tie it to deep film culture. And of course, near and dear to my heart, Dublab, which is,
27 years?
27 years this year,
of Dublab.
which is
Give it up, everybody. Come on.
wild. It's like still seems like a baby in many ways because we're just every day growing and learning, and it's astonishing. So Lauren and Tate and Alejandro and everybody, the whole crew, let's hear for the Dublab crew for doing this. And the party's not over, friends, because over at Zizu and Lincoln Heights, we've got DJs over there. I know that Sugu Itagaki from We Share Records is on the decks now. We have Koto Yoshioka from Stone's Throw and the man responsible behind Stone's Throw Japan. And we have Yuka Mizuhara as well. We have these incredible deep DJs over at Zizu doing their things. Check that out. It goes till 2 a.m. It goes late, so go over there, 2 a.m. Check out Goldline and all the great things these people do. Thank you so much for being here. Woo!
Thanks, everybody. Keep listening.